Good afternoon, viewers. It's October and I'm down in southern Spain having a few days planning my business activities. There's lots of things going on at the moment in my world, so it's an opportunity just to get out of the cold and wet of the UK and come somewhere nice and warm and still sunny. It's lovely down in southern Spain. And as a result, obviously been slightly out of contact of the UK, other than a few sort of news bulletins that have cropped up along the way, and genuinely amazed and disgusted at the antics of our politicians. When the mini budget was announced, I cheered. I genuinely felt at last we had something of a breakthrough in the thinking around the economy. I'm proud to be an entrepreneur. I'm proud to run small and medium-sized enterprises, and I think it's incredible how out of touch our elites have become. And I use that term because I've watched a few things happen here in sequence which strikes me as really ominous for the future of the UK and the economy. I was at times lone voice, really. I was quite vociferous against the idea of lockdowns in 2020. I looked at the statistics of the numbers of people that were affected by the illness, and for me, whilst it was difficult, it was grim, it was an unpleasant illness, it wasn't any reason to lock down the UK economy, to effectively stop businesses. And you know, I had companies that were operating really well, and we had cataclysmic drop off in sales and revenue. We had to borrow money that we didn't have to borrow before through the schemes. So we lost revenue, we lost profit, and then we added debt that's going to take some time to repay. And all of that was because of policy decision making, which for me was deeply flawed. And then, surprise, surprise, inflation followed. Price rises followed. Much of that inflation was not actually about printing money, but it was about supply side disruption. If you stop the ability of companies to make their products available into supply chain, you delay, you disrupt the normal functioning of different elements of supply side. So for example, businesses that manufacture things can't necessarily just start up again. I know, for example, companies that made tiles for house builders, and when they restarted the kilns, all the tiles came out wrong. So you've got disruption, you've got damaged goods, you've got the wrong goods, and all of that impacts on the chain of activity that's going on. So there's a major factor there. And then obviously people realise that their wages haven't risen for some time. There's an argument that says a bit of inflation is good for wages and for people's living standards. So we saw a massive impact in terms of materials. One of our companies that manufactures goods, steel as a raw material, doubled in price in no time at all. Wood that goes into some of our other raw material products more than doubled in price in like a month, 2 months. And that's the kind of disruption in the real world that the effect of lockdowns created in the economy. And just as we were sort of getting to deal with that, we'd been able to restore gross margin. Along comes the Tory Party having a fight amongst itself, getting rid of Boris, having a bit of a drawn out process. I didn't like any of the candidates. I've actually personally voted Tory all my life, and I feel I don't have anywhere to vote anymore, because for me the Tory Party is virtually the same as the Labour Party in terms of policies and economic beliefs. So there we are. We've got one so-called potential leader, Rishi Sunak, who was the architect of furlough, huge amounts of government debt to protect a crazy lockdown policy. And then someone called Liz Truss, who I didn't really know anyway, seems about as charismatic as a dead frog. And those two became the leading contenders. And you kind of go, Jesus, is that the best that we've got on offer? It reminds me a bit of the USA. You know, the argument about, is Donald Trump a good guy, is Biden a good guy? Seriously, are they two the best that anyone can achieve? In the whole of the USA, 350 million people or something, and that's it, those two. So it started to feel like that over here in the UK. And then to my astonishment, when Truss made it through and We had our first black chancellor, which I think is fantastic in terms of attainment, and our equal society, which isn't equal, but you know what I mean. It's about people's opportunity. And he delivered a stunning budget. I was bowled over. I was like, getting rid of the corporation tax rise, fantastic. Keeping corporation tax at 19%, at least it wasn't going to go up to 25%, which means that companies don't need to work as hard to achieve the same level of profit to keep the money in the business that they otherwise would do. And just to give some context, for my personal business to achieve the same level of revenue, we would need to create £30,000 more profit just to pay the tax bill. That's the reality. That's what these policies amount to. It's all well and good saying it's percentages and, you know, the Treasury's got an 18 billion tax hole and all the rest of it. But the cold, hard reality is me and thousands of other small businesses. That's the reality that we confront. We either get poorer or we have to work harder just to stand still. That's the effect of these policies. So I was really excited when I saw that happen. I think it was poor politics to drop the 45p rate. I agree with that. It made sense. But once you start to U-turn, then people sense your weakness. But the market thing was really just a confluence. And as has been said in the media, but very little attention paid to it, the dollar has been rising in value across the planet. It's not just the pound. Lots of other currencies have been falling as well. So this sort of market manipulation. And then on the monetary side, let's look at the performance of the Bank of England. Well, the Bank of England is now run by the guy who used to run the FCA. And the FCA, in my opinion, is an abysmal organisation that is not fit for purpose. It pays huge amounts of money to a plethora of civil servants who I can see provide no real value whatsoever other than the original purpose. So they put that guy in charge of the Bank of England, which has lagged behind all of the strategic monetary moves that might have been made. Yes, they intervened in the markets and it had some impact, but arguably they should have been doing that some before. If they wanted to prevent the kind of issues that have happened, why did they not increase interest rates in lockstep with, say, the Fed? So there's questions there that need to be answered. And it starts to feel like a combined effort to reduce our UK politics, if you like, or economic theory back to collectivism, back to no distinction between Tory or Labour or Lib Dem. It's all one miasma, and it's deeply, deeply disillusioning. It's just horrific. And then worst of all, we'll go back to 25p for corporation tax. And this is what gets me, is they say, that'll raise the Treasury 18 billion. No, it won't. Because now every business owner, just like me, is going to be thinking, well, I'll spend my profits and I'm going to give them to the government, who just away the money. You know, we all know how wasteful government is. Now we've got a new chancellor who was a proponent of Chinese-style lockdown measures, about as anti-libertarian and anti-free speech as you could ever possibly hope for. And now he's in charge of the Treasury, probably in fact a kind of puppet Prime Minister. I was going to say MD, feels like that really. So it's just so distressing and so depressing that instead of gripping the opportunity to get the economy to grow, yes, we need fiscal policy that obviously convince the markets. At the same time, we've got to do something to get this economy to grow. And the only way is to give incentives to people. If businesses keep more of the profits that they generate, they've got more incentive to invest and to grow their businesses, which is what we all want to do. We want to employ people, want to make more money. We don't want to give it away to government. We don't want to be constantly taxed to death all the time. It's like a revision to the 1970s, and I just despair as to where it's going to take us. We are condemned to no growth, slow growth, just almost like a squeeze really on the entrepreneurship that the UK for decades, centuries was famous for. It seems to have just completely disappeared. Elsewhere in Europe, we see a pushback against that. We see right-leaning governments actually being appointed, and I kind of go, what the hell has happened in the UK? I don't really talk about politics, but it's difficult to separate politics from economic reality, and I'm mainly interested in business and therefore economics. And that's my major concern really. So I guess the only ray of light in all of this is, for me as a professional acquirer of companies, and those of you that follow me know that I teach how people like me, if you like me, you're interested in buying companies, acquiring companies. We have a whole set of the market over here where people are just going to go, I'm done. I don't want to be in business anymore. This is horrific. Get me out of here. And if we're strong, if we're brave, if we're proactive, it's an opportunity for us as acquirers to see the opportunities to help people over here to get out of their business. How do I think that's going to happen? Well, clearly interest rates are under real pressure of rising. We're going to see pressure on interest rates, the cost of borrowing, whether that's for business, whether that's for mortgages, any kind of debt provision. In comparison, if you're a business owner and you've got your pension tucked away, your house is paid off, the kids are grown up and so on, and I see lots of business owners exactly like that. Ask yourself the question, do you need a big lump of cash at the point that you sell your business? Whereas if you were able to get into what I would call vendor finance, there's a massive opportunity there to cut down on the debt burden to a business, but also for you as a business owner to benefit from exiting your company, hold the first charge, and also to benefit from cash that, let's face it, where else are you going to put cash in the current market environment and get a good return? And this is on a business that you know the people, you know what you're handing over. So the trick is to find a good buyer and a good seller. That relationship, that rapport is crucial to that idea. So I'm putting it out there. I think there's going to be more and more people saying, I'm done. I don't want to run my business anymore. I'm fed up with this. I've had enough. But also, if you're a good professional buyer and you've got a good relationship with the seller, the opportunity to bring together vendor finance and for the sellers to fund the exit of their business, I think is compelling. So I'm going to push more at that idea and see where that takes us, really. So like I said, just wanted to record this video. I'm genuinely gutted. I kind of had my head in my hands the other day when the revision to what I felt was a really stunning budget was really forward thinking and clearly was about rejuvenating the economy and allowing people to have more money in their pockets to make the choices that they should make. And it's like the dead hand of government is slapped across us again, and I fear for where it's going to take the economy. As entrepreneurs, we'll do what we do. We'll try and find a way around it, and we'll try and find ways to make our businesses thrive and grow in the current climate, really. But for me, just, like I said, desperately sad at the outturn of events, really. And who knows where it's going to take us. I think it's pathetic when the IMF, who actually have an appalling track record, stand in judgment over the policies of a sovereign government, really. And it's not right. So that's my take. I hope that's been of interest. I hope it's stimulated some thoughts in your minds as to the options, the opportunity. I do think there's a growing opportunity for people who need to exit their business, for us as buyers, and also the idea of being creative with your financing structure rather than taking on expensive debt that might be increasingly more difficult to manage. Think about how that might suit both buyer and seller to get together, really, to create that exit. So till next time, I hope you found this video stimulating. Click on the links below. There's lots of connections to other content that we do, some information on how we work and how we help both sellers and buyers to come together and create a successful exit and a successful in and an acquisition to the business. And this is all about sustaining and keeping quality enterprises, small and medium-sized enterprises in the UK economy, employing people and paying taxes, even if it's more tax. Until next time, I'll speak to you soon.